Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're going to go ahead and get started. Nicholas, if you could start us off with a roll call.
Carla Gurgiello. Joanne Harris.
Present.
Josie Martinez is absent. Andrea Sanchez Muniz is absent. Marianne Valdez Hernandez is absent. Fernanda Cardenas.
Here.
Paul Stahl is absent. Marcy Ince. Beth Graham.
Here.
Judy Cruz is absent. Jaspreet Kaur. Board Chair, we have a quorum.
Let's start with the silent meditation, bring our thoughts to the work we have ahead of us today. Okay, next we'll go to the next agenda item, which is the approval of minutes. The minutes were sent out via email ahead of time and also are in your packet. There's two sets of minutes that I'd like you to consider for review and approval. The first is for the Library Board of Trustees meeting on July 24th, and I'll entertain a motion for approval here.
I second.
Thank you, Marcy. We have a first from Marcy and a second from Ms. Harris. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we have the minutes for the Advocacy Committee and Budget Committee joint meeting, which took place on August 15th. And I'll also entertain a motion for the approval of these minutes. Thank you, Beth.
And I second.
A first from Ms. Graham and a second from Ms. Harris. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Next agenda item, actually I want to, let's just recognize and notate that Judy Cruz has joined us as well. And next we'll move to public comments. So reference my list, as is the kind of routine. We'll hear citizens to be heard that are here in person first, and you'll have 3 minutes, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak, and then we also have phone and email comments that are received as well, and we will play or read those out afterwards, but just to give preference to those who took the time to appear in person. So the first person is Jade Pacheco. You are ready to. Okay, thank you.
Hello, thank you for having me today. First, I wanted to acknowledge that you so very much for having this presentation. It goes a long way towards language justice. I'm very excited for that. I'm here to discuss the assessment of the police pilot program. We're wondering what's the process with that, where we are at. I also would like to encourage y'all again to host a community info session on the program and the assessment process. The community deserves input on how that process goes forward. I also would like to ask y'all, as a community space that the library is, as a resource hub, I'm asking y'all to bring a full-time social worker housed in this library. I think it would go far for our houseless neighbors, but also for any folks who maybe cannot afford or have access to those type of resources. I ask again that you prioritize community resources and community building over intimidation and good behavior through fear. And that is what you use when you install police in this library. I'm asking that maybe instead that y'all could host a community discussion on public safety solutions that we can come up together. Include like Corazon Ministries, Haven for Hope, Thrive Youth Center, include like a bunch of different venues. Texas Organizing Project represents Black and Latina orgs. We represent criminal legal reform. Bring a lot of different people together so we can come up with a real community solution. Finally, I'd like to ask you and express my opposition to the Coffee with a Cop. This is a place of learning. This is not a place for police propaganda. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Amanda Tomas.
Hello, my name is Ananda Thomas. I'm with Act for SA, and I'm speaking here today to remind the board that there's an entire community against cops being posted in our libraries, which is one of our last free, safe spaces for so many of us. Over the past few months, we have filled hours of testimony as a community, and I hope that our thoughts, our feelings, and frustrations will be weighed just as equally with the assessment that's going to be coming underway. It's only right. While we wait to learn more about the assessment on the pilot program, I hope that you as a body is also considering how to include public input in this process. We deserve a say in how our library dollars are being spent. We deserve a say in how our libraries are ran. And we deserve a say on whether we want armed officers who are frankly violent actors in our community in our libraries. In my opinion, cops don't belong in libraries, period. We, as library patrons and community members, need to be a part of this assessment process and deserve to have our voices heard, period. Let us be part of this process, and let's together find solutions to safety in libraries together. Solutions that don't involve armed officers in our libraries. Thank you.
And just one final check, is there anyone else that wanted to share public comments but did not sign up? Okay, next we'll transition to a voice recording, I believe. Edward, are you ready for that? Yes, ma'am. Okay, and I understand that this voice recording does have some personally identifiable information, such as a phone number, address, so there will be a portion of it that's skipped just to protect that person's, a portion of their identity. Their name will still be shared. So thank you, Edward, if you can share that.
The agenda topic that I'm speaking about is the San Antonio Police Department being posted on site on the libraries. I'm against that. More for public services, helping the homeless, and not trespassing anybody in a public forum. My name is Frank Garcia.
And next, public comments that were submitted via the website or via email. And Nicholas, I think you're going to read these.
One, Randall Kennedy. I'm very concerned to learn about the misuse of funds this library administration has been making, which has resulted in several libraries currently closed, unqualified individuals placed in supervisor interim positions, and a shameful budget that shows the corrupt priorities of those who with ridiculous inflated salaries. They wanted to hire more people to help hide their budget problems, and they decided to place armed officers in the library. Watch previous board meetings and hear their disregard for the safety of staff. They have hired consultants to do their work, such at the Friends of the Library report. Look at this budget and it shows what they really care about. Please request their immediate resignation before they ruin the goodwill and reputation of our library system. Hurry before they do more damage, such as the agreement with Bexar County and their horrible reputation with TLA. San Antonio hosted TLA's annual conference, and they saw how horrible this administration is doing. It's all public information. Libraries serve voting sites. I hope you take action before the next elections. This board is the only thing standing in their way from losing the public's trust in our San Antonio libraries. I trust you will do what is right and remove the disgraceful, disconnected, heartless people who are paid extremely well, yet allow for libraries to close due to their greed and mismanagement of public money. Thank you. A little more? Oh, okay, sorry. Comment number 2, Kathleen Richards. First, thank you to each board member who shows up at their libraries and has the courage to question the actions of this current library administration. We demand more transparency from individuals who want to sell off libraries' spaces to the highest bidders and neglect their communities by allowing libraries to close due to their misuse of resources and mistreatment of staff. This administration has failed to complete a comprehensive strategic plan, failed to protect the confidential of library user information, failed to provide adequate security oversight resulting in police officers in our libraries, and placed unqualified individuals in supervisor positions resulting in bad decisions based on their lack of accountability. Please do not let them sugarcoat their mistakes and hide their incompetence or inexperience. When was the last time anyone in this administration spent time in a public-facing position such as the front desk at Mission or Cortez? What do they really know about our communities if they don't care to treat staff with respect and dignity? They should be ashamed of this budget and their actions. Please hold them accountable and save our libraries from their appalling apathy. We need more transparency in our libraries. Sincerely, a concerned citizen. Comment number 3, Julian Castillo. I'm very concerned about the fact that many libraries are being closed due to HVAC issues due to the failure of this library administration to plan and manage their job responsibilities, especially when they are making 4 times more than the average staff member. It's embarrassing to see people in charge who lie to the public, hide their mistakes, and then hire and promote their friends who cover up their horrible deeds. Is it true there is a job posting for a library manager that pays $58,000 to $81,000 and requires a master's degree with 10 years of increasing experience in supervision experience, while the interim assistant director has no master's degrees, no supervisor experience, and no actual experience in any library service position, yet makes over $100K. This is why the city places libraries at the bottom of their priority list and will not take this administration seriously. They are not doing their jobs, and I hear they are hiring outside consultants to make any decisions, especially regarding staffing issues and relationships with stakeholders. Please reconsider your responsibilities to the citizens of San Antonio and hold them accountable, since this board has that power and authority. What's going to happen when we have elections? Will the libraries be open for voting? Will you let these irresponsible, unqualified individuals continue their misuse of resources and diminish the public goodwill towards our libraries? Comment number 4 from Natalia Lopez. Sorry if I got the agenda number wrong. I had a hard time finding a list. I agree with Act 4 SATX's sentiment of having no cops in our libraries and investing in social workers / people who can work towards meaningful, positive change and support for the homeless that seek refuge in said libraries. I believe these spaces would be safer with a more thoughtful approach that didn't involve law enforcement. Comment number 5 from Catherine Barsones. I'm not understanding why there should be police inside a library. What does their presence add other than a stifling fear of suppression and brutality? It's one thing to have security, but it's another to have armed law enforcement inside a community place. What laws would they be enforcing? Would they control what we can read? Who are they protecting us against? Whose orders are they following? With how our current Texas government operates, who's to say it's not POC, specifically Latinos and Black people, and homeless they go after? Police have no place inside a library, and it should remain that way. Comment number 6 from Jessica Richards. I'm upset to hear how many librarians are closed today because of the mismanagement and incompetency of library leadership. I understand this board makes decisions and sets policies, but the city needs to review the qualifications and practices of the personnel. Will the library board ensure all libraries are open and accessible in time for the upcoming elections? Will the priorities of the leadership be changed to reflect the needs of our community? Why are there several interim administrators? How many vacancies or openings are there for qualified librarians? Looking at this budget, I see money spent on facilities, and the city's budget shows promise to improve the physical infrastructure that has been neglected. But what about the safety of the public and the staff in those facilities? Please start asking questions and take corrective measures before we lose our libraries and they start selling off parts to the highest bidder. I have contacted City Council and expect more details soon from their office regarding the situation regarding elections. This is an important election, and we all need to be prepared. Thank you. Comment number 7 from Jessica Stewart. Rather than police in the library, I'd like to see full-time social workers. Comment number 8 from Priscilla Olivares. Hello, my name is Priscilla Olivares. I am a policy attorney with the Immigrant Legal Resource Center and a resident of San Antonio. I submit this testimony to respectfully request the public library seek and incorporate community input before beginning an assessment of the pilot program that stations SAPD officers at the Central Library. We know libraries are special spaces for intellectual freedom and creativity. These special spaces should not become another area of surveillance and enforcement where communities can be targeted. Libraries were created for our diverse communities, and it is therefore critical that we ask community members how they may be affected by the expansion of the pilot program. As library staff have previously stated, libraries are one of the few last open facilities to our community. It is important the city does not jeopardize this environment of inclusivity and openness. The City of San Antonio must protect these special spaces and ensure community members continue to feel welcome in our libraries. Libraries have been a space where new ideas have formed, and this same emphasis on ingenuity and creativity should be incorporated when addressing our diverse community needs. Therefore, I urge you to think creatively about how to address community concerns. I urge you to speak with organizations who do the important work of serving our diverse communities and who also ensure they protect those they serve. I ask that you protect the inclusivity of our libraries and protect our community members by seeking alternative forms of community safety, such as having social workers, not police, stationed at libraries. Doing more of the same, having police address community needs that are better addressed in other ways, could do harm to these community spaces and to our community members. And the last comment, number 9, from Penny K. I am asking that you do not continue this program with armed cops. I am asking that you consider more community-led options instead. I am asking for mental health professionals full-time in the library. I am asking that more public forums or discussions happen specifically for this issue as you are in the assessment period. I am asking that you do not discard folks in our community when they get empowered to speak her with a differing opinion. I ask that you do not continue this program.
Thank you for that. Next, we will move to briefing, to the briefing section. So first is a report from me, the library chair. I want to start off by just a quick reminder. So this meeting is streamed on YouTube, both live and then available afterwards on the library's on the library's website. There's a YouTube live stream. But in addition to that, in the past, we've also had a WebEx option, which allows trustees to join in. We can see them on screen, and they can participate in voting. This was with their camera on. So this was something that we started during COVID. It allowed us to safely meet during the isolation time periods during COVID. Now that we've kind of safely exited out of that phase, we are changing the policy so that if a trustee needs a virtual option to attend a monthly board meeting, the request is that you please contact Edward by noon the Monday before the meeting. So the meeting's always on the last Wednesday. By Monday at noon, you'll have to reach out to Edward to let him know that you're requesting that virtual option. If you don't do that, we won't have a WebEx option available. It is quite a bit of administrative work for the staff, and so we want to reduce that and increase efficiencies wherever we can. So something happens last minute, you're not able to attend on the day of, and you're looking for a virtual option, we won't be able to accommodate that going forward. So if you have any questions about that, we can talk about it offline, of course, as well. I also want to congratulate Ms. Harris, Ms. Hernandez, Ms. Sanchez Muniz, and Ms. Graham on their reappointment to the Library Board of Trustees. Very pleased to hear that confirmation came through, and that you'll be continuing your service with the board. Kathy and I also met on August 12th with the Deputy City Manager, Maria Villagomez, and our Assistant City Manager, David McCary, who's here today to discuss the library's FY 2025 budget. I think we'll talk a little bit more about the budget later in today's meeting, but I'll use this opportunity to continue to ask you all to continue to advocate for support for libraries and attend your district, or actually you can attend any district budget meeting as well. And then finally, I presided over the Advocacy and Budget Committee's joint meeting on August 15th, and that joint committee report will be delivered later in the agenda, and we just approved the minutes. You can take a look at the minutes if you were not present in that meeting. Next, I'll ask trustees to share their reports. I'm going to start on the left. So Fernanda, I'll call on you first.
No report for me, thank you. I attended the GARA Friends meeting, and I was so happy to be over there because I hadn't been over there in a while, and the library looks fabulous, and it was a great meeting.
I attended the 3 search committee meetings as well as the advocacy committee meeting, the joint advocacy budget meeting, as well as I went to a lot of the districts were having back to school events. I was able to attend or volunteer at the District 1 back to school event where I was happy to see the representatives from the Bazan Library giving out information about the resources that the library offers, including the Wi-Fi and everything else. It was a really great event. It was over 1,000 people attended, so it was a great event to get the word out, and it was at Edison High School. That's it.
I attended the District 2 budget meeting that they had, and I also attended the county budget forum that they had. I attended the Schaefer Friends meeting that and then another thing of interest is that the Carver Library on September the 6th and 7th are having their fall book sale, and that the HEB Foundation, when they have their upcoming meeting, they're going to take a tour of the Carver Library. So I'm real happy, hope something come out of that. Thank you.
I attended the joint library, the advocacy budget committee meeting, the D1 town hall budget meeting here at Central. I also hosted one of my team meetings for work here at Central Library, and I attended the
I attended the Library Director Search Committee meetings, the Joint Budget and Advocacy Committee meeting, the Facilities meeting, and the District 10 Budget Town Hall on Monday night.
So I attended the committee meetings, including the joint one here at Central. I also attended the District 4 budget meeting, which it was very nice, and Dale got a shout out for using public transportation, so very excited that my councilwoman definitely knows her people and the people who work in the city. And then also very excited, because I always ask for these metrics when we get into the school year, but my district specifically, they're spearheading lessons that use Sora, and I'm always asking about Sora. I was like, how is my district doing with it? So our librarians are doing very explicit lessons with using it and making sure that the kids are getting on, whether at school or at home, to access books. So I'm really excited. I'm hoping we have good metrics with that.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to the report from the interim library director.
Okay, thank you very much. So I have some sad news to start off with, which is we had 2 library employees who passed away in the month of August. One was an active employee, one was a retired employee. So Joe Sepulveda, who was one of our library maintenance workers and was an active employee, passed away on August 13th. And it was quite sudden. And so the team, of course, we're all struggling with that loss. I want to thank Mr. McCary for coming and visiting with the facilities team shortly thereafter. And then, of course, library administration met with the teams and also had a grief counselor on site the next day for folks who needed that resource. The HR department, the city's human resources department, has been absolutely wonderful with the family. There's benefits that are offered immediately to the deceased team member's family to help them right away, and so that happened very quickly. And then services for Joe were held on August 23rd. And then we learned shortly after Joe's passing that another library maintenance worker who had retired, Edward Cantu, had passed away. And so Edward worked for the public library for 26 years, and then he had retired in 2024, so just this year in April. And his services were also held on August 23rd. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. As Jaspreet mentioned, we are working on all the reappointments for the library board members. Congratulations to those who have run the gauntlet and made it. We have 2 more appointments coming up tomorrow. That is for Jaspreet and Fernanda. And then there are 3 remaining terms that are pending that they expire on September 30th, and we're working with the council offices, so all the board members have reapplied, and I thank you for that. And we're now, the ball's kind of in the council offices' court, and so we're staying in close contact with them. I did want to give an update on the Cody Branch Library. Cody Branch Library is a branch that we have a funded heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system project that's coming up in 2025. In the meantime, it has experienced temperature issues in the building, so we've deployed a number of measures to try to keep the temperatures down, portable spot coolers. However, it got to a point that for a period of time, we were providing services out of the meeting room, which was one of the areas that we could consistently keep cool. I'm happy to say that we were able to make some additional repairs to the existing system, and normal services resumed at Cody on August 15th. The county, Bexar County, included in their proposed budget that was presented on August 20th, the request from the city for $3.5 million for the interlocal agreement for library services for fiscal '25. So I did want to just let everyone know that in the county's proposed budget, that $3.5 million was included. The strategic plan document is complete, so we just incorporated the very final changes, actually today, and we've submitted those final edits to the consultant, and so they'll make a final copy of the report, and then we'll be publishing it out. So we'll be distributing that very widely to the board, of course, and to our stakeholders and to the community. We have our City of San Antonio Library budget presentation coming up on September 3rd. Jaspreet will participate as board chair and kick off the presentation with some comments. That's at 2 p.m. in the council briefing room, which is at City Hall. So, of course, you're welcome to join us if you're available. And then it'll also be on TVSA. And then, as was mentioned, there have been a series of town hall meetings. And so there's 2 more tonight. That's for District 6 and District 7 for the budget. Since Dale, Jessica, and I get to be with you, Adam Zabe and Gabby Rauschuber are going to attend on behalf of the library for those district sessions. And then there's an additional, 2 additional sessions on August 29th coming up, District 3 and District 8. And then on Saturday, August 31st, there's the special youth town hall. And the library has been invited to be on the panel for that particular budget town hall. So that'll happen this Saturday.
And that's happening here, right?
It is happening here. Not the youth town hall, but the other town halls are at 6:30 in the evening. The youth town hall's in the morning, although 10:30. Okay. And that's all I have.
Are there any questions for Kathy? And just a reminder, we had a draft of this new director's report last month and had asked for feedback. So even if you didn't get a chance to give feedback, or you noticed something maybe tonight that you have a question on or feedback on, I am confident that Kathy and her team will be willing to take feedback on that. So any questions on the report? I just want to acknowledge the 2 employees, whether active or retired, I think is impactful for those who are part of the family, so to speak, the library family, and I know that that can be very difficult. I appreciate the time that you took to allow them to process that and encourage you and your team to continue to encourage them to also seek the resources and assistance that they might need. I think sometimes the shock of a person passing on can take a little while to process as well, and maybe sometimes you realize you need help after some time has passed. I do want to also ask a few questions about the performance indicators that have nicely been moved forward in the director's report. So first of all, congratulations, I think, is in order, because we've reached some of our fiscal year targets well ahead of the end of the fiscal year, so I think that's something to celebrate. But I did want to understand if there's any additional insight into the year-to-date circulation, which is 8% below target. I think that's a year-to-date fiscal numbers, probably that it's 8% below. I'm making an assumption there because the chart seems to be a little bit different, like it seems like it's on the uphill. So is there anyone that can talk to what might be contributing to that physical circulation?
Sure. So I actually just noticed we don't have page numbers on the pages of the director's report. That's my input. So we'll have page numbers, so it'll be easier to refer to. But I think what Jaspreet's referring to is the key performance indicator circulation fiscal year 2024 year to date, which is a line graph. And so this is a comparison of year-to-date this year to last year, and that's what's down 8%. However, at the same time, we are ahead of our goal for the year. So perhaps I can invite Randall to come up and give a little bit more information about why kind of year-to-date it's different than last year, but we're still on track for the overall target.
Yeah, I think and while Randall's making his way up, I think the obvious question will be if the bar shows that we're ahead October, like every month until June, how are we 8% behind our last year's numbers?
Thank you for looking at that chart. So yes, that is comparing the 2 fiscal years. So July 2024 compared to July 23 had a slight change. So because it's a fiscal year to date number, it visually doesn't stand out as much. So it's just comparing just the total fiscal year to date number. But if you really were to zoom in that graph, you'll notice that it's a little bit below what it was last year. And it just stands out more when you look at the percentage versus the chart.
So the 8% is not year-to-date, it's July to July. It's a July
It's year to
and
date,
July.
but the actual, when you compare, look at it in more closer detail, the what's driving that percent drop is in the month of July. And we could, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so for the month of July, what do you think is driving that discrepancy, so to speak?
I'll need to check with the collection and circulation team to see if exactly if there's anything else. But just at the face value, it's a little bit lower.
So maybe something that could help here is if we changed the scale of the y-axis in this so that we can distinguish the difference. Again, this is a visual assumption that I'm making, so I could be wrong, but if we were ahead of last year up until essentially May, and then the lines kind of converge, it's still surprising to me that we would be 8% behind and maybe not closer to a smaller number, maybe.
I'll definitely look at the scale. That may be what it is. I think that first is not 0, and that's probably what's causing it.
Yeah, that would be helpful. And then if there are any trends that we can understand from, as you're doing some additional research, physical circulation versus digital circulation, because it would be great to understand, is this a conversion in the type of consumption that our patrons are taking on? Are they starting to abandon books and preferring more digital, or are they not getting access to physical circulation due to our own, demand supply issue, and therefore they're shifting their media because they're not able to get something? And maybe holds would be a good way that we could maybe start to surmise some of that. I don't know enough about the physical and digital collection to understand how much overlap there is, but maybe that's something you could educate us about as well.
We'll take a deeper dive and look at it more closely.
I can suggest one thing that might be helpful also on the report, besides the ones that you just mentioned, and that is when we have these percent changes, perhaps we could also provide the absolute numbers, because that'll kind of give a better idea too of how much obviously it's 8%, but how much that is as an absolute number.
And then one other question that I had, and we of course just heard quite a few public comments about the closure or the inaccessibility of some libraries. So the year-to-date technology hours and Wi-Fi hours are also low, not alarmingly, it's just 1%, which is pretty small value. But to understand how our current closures or closures throughout the year are affecting our forecast, if they should be considered in our forecast. For the branches where we know that there's going to be a closure now, sometimes it happens unexpectedly, right? And I think Cody maybe is a good example in my district of a library that was unexpected closure. But when we have planned closures, how does that affect the Wi-Fi hours based on what we've seen in the past years? So that if there is an issue with the Wi-Fi, sometimes we may not know about it. Maybe someone tries to get on the Wi-Fi and they can't, and they don't go to the library is not open, so they're not sharing that feedback with anyone. But can we use some of these as leading indicators to give us an idea that there's something else that we need to like dive deeper into.
Sure, and for any known project closure, all of those are factored in beginning of the year. So for example, we are decreasing at those locations that we expect to be closed in. And as far as what do we expect the use to be when it is closed, yes, our numbers are adjusted for those interim service situations.
So both the target has been adjusted and the graph has been normalized for that? Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I may have used up all the board's questions on that last one. Okay.
I know it's been explained to us, but I think it's been a while since we've talked about it. But what is an impression on the virtual engagement? Because that's down 22%, and I can't remember what we had talked about that it was.
When we talk about digital engagement or virtual engagement is essentially one individual seeing something online. So to put it in a social media context, if somebody's scrolling Facebook and our content is displayed to them by the Facebook API, that counts as one impression. Whether they scroll past it, whether they recognize that they saw it or not, it counts as one impression. I kind of equate it in the real world to driving by a billboard. You may not have recognized that you drove by it, you might not have thought about it, but you drove by it, and so that's factored in when we get advertising reports from like Clear Channel Outdoor for billboard advertising. There are a lot of reasons why that number might fluctuate heavily, and it does tend to fluctuate a lot year by year. Some are within our control, some are not. Changes in Facebook and Meta's APIs and X's APIs can impact how often our content is delivered to people. And of course, then also the frequency with which we post on a platform like social can influence the number of impressions that we get. So it's an important metric for us. It's one that we obviously report to the board and that we pay mindful attention to. But when it comes to talking about the success of our content, we frequently look more to engagement rate because that tells us more about how people are actually stopping and paying attention to the content. So you'll see in the report that those numbers are healthy, but we are mindful of the fact that impressions tend to fluctuate, and right now they seem to be down more than we anticipated this year.
So a follow-up question to that, Scott, and you don't have to answer this, but I'll just ask the question, you can come back to us, is recognizing that engagements in some way are more valuable to the library system than impressions. What type of tactics do we use when we're monitoring, like how often are we monitoring impressions, and then when does your team decide, do you and your team decide to take action because impressions maybe are trending down or something else is happening? And you can get back to us on the answer for that. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for that great question, Andrea. Okay, next we'll move to the budget report. And I believe, yes, Gabby is ready and waiting.
Board members and board chair. I'm here to deliver your operating budget report for July 2024. As of the end of July, 83% of the fiscal year had elapsed. Bottom line, we're at 82% spent, including encumbrances, or 81% without them. So although we're still slightly behind in spending, we are projected to basically spend just about all of our budget. I mean, we want to remain within a nice amount under. We do not want to go over our budget. But we have, for the past couple of years, spent just about 100%. If you look at the graph that's on the sheet after your budget report, we pretty much round up to 100% spent of our budget, at least for the past 2 years. So during the last couple of months, we continue to monitor all of our expenditures, and if we identify that we're going to have additional savings, we of course look at the system and see what need there is out there, and we pretty much look at our library resources and see, what items we have a lot of holds on, and we overspend in that line item based off of the savings that we're seeing. So this year, we were able to fund our summer reading incentive books with the general fund. which we had not in the past. We had always utilized donation funds, but we were able to bring that in-house and utilize some savings and other line items to get those for the summer reading program. So that completes my report, but of course, if y'all have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions on the budget report? Okay, thank you. Next is a report from the Executive Committee. I'd like to thank Ms. Harris for presiding over the Executive Committee meeting last week. We did meet, and on August 20th, they did meet, I should say, on August 20th, and set the agenda for today's meeting. Next is a report from the Advocacy Committee and Budget Committee. Judy and Joanne, I think you have delegated this to Jessica, but is there any updates you want? Okay. Thank you, Jessica.
Good afternoon. The Budget Committee and the Library Advocacy Committee met in a joint meeting on August 15th, and the minutes are included that the trustees voted on earlier in the meeting. Essentially, Kathy Donnellan, interim library director, delivered a presentation regarding the proposed FY24-25 budget for the library department. And so Kathy reviewed the various budget initiatives for the library system. Then the committee discussed advocacy tactics and options. The budget town hall meetings are currently underway. Tonight there are 2 of them. They're going to continue the rest of this week and conclude this Saturday with a youth town hall meeting here at the Central Library. Following the committee meeting and at the direction of the joint committee, or the joint, both committees, a email was sent out to library trustees that outlined 4 areas for public comment. And so this is an email that was sent out August 16th, and I have copies. I'll bring those to you. And it provides some bullet points for areas of input. The city does have a public comment opportunity that is open through the end of the month, so there is still time to provide public comment. On this sheet, I'll have a QR code if you'd like to scan it, and it'll take you to a 3-question survey. And it is important to note that folks can submit several opportunities for feedback. For example, if you have feedback regarding the library and streets, you can do both of them, one on each comment, so that they can all be taken into consideration. So this email was also shared with the Friends of the Library and the Library Foundation to push out to their network to help provide information about the measures and the tactics that the joint budget committee and the advocacy committee endorsed as part of advocacy for the budget development process. And so I will pass this out and be available to take questions if you have any.
Any questions for Jessica, Judy, or Joanne? And I have one question, Jessica, I'll ask as you're passing this out. Was there a social post that was like made for this? Email format obviously is a bit different in terms of distributing. Was there a social media related like post?
Related to San Antonio Public Library?
To this ability to fill out a virtual comment card?
The library did post the public comment opportunity. So as every opportunity we can, we echo the city's process to provide and receive public comments. So we did echo that out through social media.
So if any trustees are looking for like something that's more easily shareable, so you don't have to like create your own artwork or create the content, take a look at the library's social handles and feel. I encourage everyone to share that within your networks as well.
Comments are accepted, or are there virtual comment card or in-person town hall meetings? Do we have here at the libraries, the in-person town hall meeting question, session, and answer printed comment cards to be able to give to the public for those that have a digital divide that are not able to give their comments virtually, that they can take it to their nearest town hall.
That is an opportunity being afforded during the town hall meetings. They do have printed comment cards at that time to fill out and provide, in addition to the virtual scanning with a cell phone. And the library also provides computers if folks need to access the link. It's something that they...
But we don't have paper comments for them to take to their budget meeting with them.
My understanding is that is not a tactic that the city as an organization developed for this budget cycle.
Well, what we did, I can share what we did based on the input from the joint meeting, is that on the library computers at all of our locations, the first thing you come to, of course, is accepting the terms of use. But then the second thing you come to is the library's website. So we put a badge on the library's website so that people could easily access the comment card.
It's like a clickable link.
Yes.
Next, a report from the Facilities Committee. Andrea?
Did meet, and we have some updates, and Mark is going to present them.
Trustees, we did meet on, what was it, August 14th, I believe it was? Yeah, that sounds about right. And we had a few items that we discussed. Let's see if this works. There we go. So we did give an update on the on-site solar projects and the EV charging stations project that we have going on. So we did talk about the on-site solar, which includes solar parking canopies at this point, which we brought to you in the past. It also is going to include some rooftop solar panels on selected facilities, which we were bringing to you at a later date for approval on some of that stuff. The dates that we did have for electric vehicle charging stations, we did have a board discussion in May of 2021, and again we had in March of 2022, and then in June of 2023 we had another update from the Office of Sustainability on these projects. The EV charging station, let me see, what's the next slide? The EV charging station facilities are listed here that we're looking to do. That project is pretty much on hold at this point because they're going through some different design issues and whatnot in the various parking lots, the layouts that they're coming up with. So there's a little bit of a hold on that process, but it's still moving forward. It's just a slow process on the EV charging stations. The on-site solar project, so we have the parking lot canopies. We do have 2 locations right now that are set to go in, well, they originally were planned for fiscal 25 or fiscal 24, which was IGO Library for a parking canopy and Las Palmas Library for a parking canopy. But we have been talking with Office of Sustainability, and because the construction project at Las Palmas has gone on longer, we're going to have further discussions with them on how we can better schedule that and schedule and place those canopies along with the remainder. And IGO, they've begun that process. They have a spot for their rooftop, for their solar parking canopy that they're going to begin after. We're working with them to start that process after the election is over on November 5th, so they don't interfere with any of the parking. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Got to figure out a better way of where we sit and things. Maybe we'll get an iPad for you, Jaspreet. But I did want to share, so as Mark mentioned, the electric vehicle charging stations are on hold. The reason for that, though, is the original design of the parking spaces and the charging stations was not accessible. So that's why they kind of went back to the drawing board. It's going to require some more resources, so that's why that's on hold. Then for the on-site solar, Las Palmas is going forward, and IGO, of course, is going forward, as Mark mentioned. We just don't want to do any timeline or process that's going to disrupt either the election at, being a vote center at IGO, or the construction at Las Palmas. So just a little bit more information about the timeline, because we're trying to avoid unintended consequences with those two. But we're very excited about both. And for the on-site solar, we will be bringing a design for those facilities to the Facilities Committee and to the board for approval, because it really is a permanent improvement to the building. So just wanted to share.
Kathy, I just want to add that for Las Palmas as well, we talked about location and placement. And when they do bring the designs, we ask them to be very cognizant of the artwork that's going to be in the front, because I think the original proposal was for them in the front, and it would block what they see. So they are taking into consideration everything that the community has come and expressed and talked about, to make sure that it doesn't take away from the beauty of the library.
Absolutely. And so based on that input, and when we saw the design, of course, we were like, oh, wait a minute, because it was at the front of the building, it was right next to the plaza, it was right next to the location of the public art. So we have asked the Office of Sustainability to work with Big Sun Solar to look at alternate locations closer to the street on either side of the building, and the latest we've proposed is actually in the staff parking. So they are taking a look at all of those options, so we can bring something, the library staff can also recommend. Thank you.
Kathy, do we know if the redesign and relocation or whatever might have to happen with the electric vehicle charging stations is going to add significantly to expense? Are we going to need to do some rebudgeting there?
So that does not come out of the library's budget. So my understanding is the answer to your first question is yes, but that is Office of Sustainability. Yep.
And we do currently have 2 locations at Thousand Oaks and at Central Library Parking Garage that do have existing EV charging stations. They are still allowed to be used because they were existing before all the stuff happened with the parking layouts and stuff. So they're still in operation and they're working effectively. So, and then we also have the infrastructure in place, or we're having the infrastructure put in place in the Brook Hollow parking lot. So that one, when they do get around to doing it and they figure out how to actually stripe everything, they'll be able to do it easy enough. So, and again, the on-site solar projects, we'll be bringing back some the rooftop, or the rooftop solar, and we'll be bringing the parking lot design, the canopy design. Current status, like I say, we're working on the parking lot canopy with IGO. We're getting a schedule with the contractor together on that. And then we're also coordinating the parking lot canopy again with the design for Las Palmas with there. And then we'll be bringing back the rooftop solar at a later date. Then we had a few project updates of actual construction projects going on, believe it or not. We have Las Palmas, which is still an ongoing project. The big news there was last week we had the construction contract approved on the 8th, I believe it was, August 8th. The construction contract was approved by City Council, so we can move forward with Phase 2 of that. We're waiting on the contractor to give us a schedule, and then we'll be able to coordinate the reopening of the library, and we'll be able to announce a date, hopefully fairly soon, as to when we'll be able to get that location back up and running. Central Library Texana bond project, that's moving forward. We've got contractors up working now. They're moving forward. They've actually got a little ahead of schedule, so we don't know how that's going to affect our ultimate opening, but we're working with them to develop a timeline on when we can start getting all of our Texana equipment back in place. That project will have a longer than normal timeline, really, from the time construction ends to the time we can reopen, because it's going to be very delicate bringing a lot of that Texana material back to Central Library. It took us, if I remember, it took us about 4 months to haul it off, and so it's going to take us a while to bring it all back here, so because we want to be very careful and deliberate with that project. Here's a couple of progress pictures. They've been doing some demo up there, so it's coming along nicely. The Carver Branch Library, the big news there is on August 8th, the City Council approved the construction manager at risk contract with Thomas S. Byrne. They're a construction company out of San Antonio. They are a very good firm, and we're really looking forward to getting involved with them and having construction meetings with them and talking about that. I'm sure once the council action gets taken care of and they get a purchase order, we'll be having some scheduling meetings between them and the architects and the design team to move forward on that.
And Mark, I was just going to share, Mark knows much more about this than I do, but let me know if I'm getting myself into trouble. Just stop me when I stop making sense. So we're excited about the construction manager at risk approach for delivery of this project because what that basically means is you bring the contractor on earlier in the design process, really, and then they work with you as a partner to see if there's any ways that you can save costs, avoid cost escalation, or deliver it in a slightly different way that's more efficient or effective. And so by engaging them early, we hope to avoid some of the issues, like, for example, we had on Las Palmas with the cost increases. At a certain point in the process, the contractor actually locks in on a guaranteed maximum price. And so at that point, you are locked in on what they will be paid, and then if there's any cost overruns, they have to absorb it. So I think this is a really great approach. This is the first time I've been working on a project that's being delivered this way, but I think one of the reasons Public Works recommended it was some of the experiences we've had on other projects.
Thank you, Kathy.
I'm really
Question?
happy that
somebody else.
we're that with the manager at risk, and I will be checking to make sure we do it with all of the projects.
It's typically reserved for higher priced projects because of the complexity of the situation, but we'll definitely keep it in mind with Public Works as we move forward on other projects when we have that option. Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
So just to clarify, the construction manager that's assigned by COSA is still part of Public Works. This is just bringing the construction manager from the construction company on so that there's like more overlap between the project manager, the art project manager, and the construction person. So they're like talking and reviewing plans sooner. Is that the change?
It's really more overlap between the design architect and the contractor. That's really what you're getting that conversation going, because as the designer comes up with an idea, the contractor can start talking to his subcontractors. And because in this project, the contractor, according to the contract that was passed, they have up to, their contract cannot exceed $9 million, I believe, for the construction contract for Carver. So their subcontractors already know that they've got a contract in place. So they don't have to worry about, oh, they might not get this project, they might not. So these subcontractors will give good pricing and they'll be able to move along the design, and they'll give pricing at certain parts of the design process to make sure that they're on board with staying in their dollar amount.
And just to touch on one other element that I
have a follow-up question
yes.
first. What isn't clear to me, and maybe this is because it's the first time, so we have to work out some of these little kinks, but where is the construction project, the COSA project manager, let me use the right term, the COSA project manager, at what point are they getting involved and letting us, like making us aware of, here is a discrepancy that's happened, the designer saying this, the contractor saying this, it's going to result in some type of outcome, right, where someone needs to make a decision. And I'm not trying to imply that the board makes ultimate decisions on construction projects, of course, but we want to be made aware. And if we can do that earlier in the process, which I think is the benefit that you're highlighting by having this at-risk project management style, where does that, how does that get elevated? Who do they contact on the library team so that the right people on the leadership team are made aware, so that if there's something that we need public input on, or we need to like communicate and change management, or we want the person who's in the district to be aware of the change, is notified. And that doesn't happen at the very end at a public meeting, but along the way, along the process. Where do we get those efficiencies?
I can address that. So that was what I was just going to add. So nothing has changed on the project management part from Public Works. So we have an assigned project manager. They've been a part of the project from the start when design kicked off. The difference with this project delivery method is that the contractor who will actually construct the project is brought on earlier, and they're actually engaged with the project manager, the library, and the architecture team much earlier in the process.
So is that the library team, is that Mark, or is that someone else?
So I'm responsible as the executive for the bond projects. I retain that responsibility during the interim period. So who they communicate, who the Public Works project manager would communicate with for any issues, decisions to be made, budget overruns, timeline changes is me.
Or design changes?
Or there shouldn't be any design changes without it going back to the board. Now, of course, this design hasn't been approved by the board yet. We're not quite there yet.
And we're using Carver as an example, obviously, to understand this new at-risk, this manager at-risk process. But I think, so something that I would love to hear more about is, what is the cycle time? They discover there's something, the construction manager says, oh, that's going to cost way too much, and we're going to have a cost overrun. Then there are some options, right? At what point are they looping you in, and at what point are you able to give me and potentially someone else who's in that district a heads up about what's happening? Because that actually is the crux of what didn't work well with Las Palmas, was that there was things that were out of sync. The public didn't know about it, board members didn't know about it. I mean, a lot of it was in the city black box of like construction stuff that happens. And I won't get into the details of the overall city's policy on that, but we want to bring as much transparency as possible. And each of the board members here that are part of the trustees are able to be part of that process.
Absolutely.
And get the word out to their council people and also to like other members of the community.
That's right. And so I hear that loud and clear. And so the benefit here, so right now for the Carver project, we're in schematic design. So normally, and by normally I mean in past ways we've delivered projects, we wouldn't have the contractor on board at this point at all.
Yeah, I'm tracking to that.
Yeah, and so that's the benefit, because the library team, and so that's me, Dale McNeil, Mark, DL Grant, the branch manager, and Haley Holmes. We are in the project meetings that should start back up every 2 weeks. We're in the meeting with the architects. We'll be in the meeting now with this construction manager at risk and with the Public Works project manager. So at those meetings, that's where anything would be identified that's a difference in what has previously been approved. One of the biggest benefits I just want to highlight, because we're really trying to improve this and avoid what you just described, is that the board has not approved design yet. So some of this work to look at what's the most efficient and effective way to deliver the project is going to happen before you even see the design to approve it, and we're going to know we're within budget. Because that was one of the big problems with Las Palmas. We weren't getting a heads up fast enough to deal and obviously to make decisions, because that's the board's role. So I really am encouraged by this approach, because it's basically before we even bring you schematic design, we're going to have looked at all the numbers. Not to get into the weeds too much, but for example, on Las Palmas, we know that wood ceiling ended up being a budget buster. That wouldn't go forward because we would have already had a discussion with the contractor about that, and there would have been an alternate proposed that was less expensive, quite frankly. So yes, I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. And then let's continue to, since this is like a bit of a pilot for the library and for our facilities committee, let's be proactive in sharing information as soon as possible, especially with the facilities committee. And then Andrea can exercise her discretion to let us know as a broader board what's relevant. Any other questions for Mark?
I have one. Can you explain the advantage of having solar panels in the parking lot?
I mean, I'm not an expert on solar panels, believe me, but I would think offhand you'd get two benefits, which would be, one, you're going to get the benefit of the sun hitting the solar panels and electricity being put back in the grid. And then you're also going to be able to park under this canopy and have your car in some shade, which is few and far between here in San Antonio. I mean, those are the two obvious ones that I come up with. I'm sure that our folks at Sustainability can help us out a lot more with other, with other things, but yeah.
Mark, will this Office of Sustainability be presenting along with you when you bring your proposal for the solar panels in a future meeting?
Yes.
Okay, and could you remind us, the Office of Sustainability, are they a city department or what?
Yes,
Who
they're a
do
city
they, like,
department,
are they
yes.
part of the technology and innovation?
No, they're a separate city office.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the power that's generated by the solar panels, maybe some of these questions you can just take back to them if you don't know the answer. The power that's generated and given back to the grid, who gets credit for that? Did that go to the library?
It doesn't go back to the grid. It powers the building.
Oh, it will.
Yeah, in fact, it can't go back to the grid because that would constitute a distribution system. And so that is not something that's allowed through regulation. So it actually.
So how much I don't know about this.
Right. I happen to be on the city selection panel for the vendor, so I got a whole education about this. But yes, so it benefits in that way. So it'll be a benefit to the city. And then, of course, carbon reduction. And then, as Mark mentioned, the canopy actually provides shaded parking spaces, which, as we all know at HEB, you want to park under the tree in the parking lot. So this will be really great. I think this will be very popular parking spaces.
And
yes.
And is there any adverse effect by adding solar panels to San Antonio, which has like an increasing propensity for hail damage? Will that make any differences in our overall insurance, like exposure for the building? And is that something that, I actually don't know the answer to this, so is that something that affects the library, or is that more of a city department issue?
So the way the city structured this contract with the vendors is that it's a net zero cost to the city. So that also includes maintenance. So the library won't be responsible for the maintenance of these panels. So I had the same question. I was like, hey, what about hail damage? What about wind? And so apparently these are very, very durable panels. And there's been a lot of deployments in San Antonio elsewhere that we've kind of seen around town. So this should not add any maintenance cost to the library's budget.
Questions? Okay.
Just to finish up on Carver, so we're working on the schedule. Once we have a few more dates, we'll get them back to you, and then we'll have a communication plan. We do have one other project that I wanted to update you on, Brook Hollow parking lot, so that one is getting near completion. I'm actually looking forward to Friday morning because they're scheduled to place asphalt throughout the parking lot, so that's going to be good to see. We'll be out there first thing Friday morning getting some pictures of that, so that project's on schedule to be done before September 30th, so that'll be ready for voting when that comes around. And here's just a few progress pictures real quick before the asphalt goes down. We got some curbs in place, so. And that does it for my report, so.
Thank you. Sorry, apologies for rushing you off the podium.
Oh, no, thank you.
Next, we have a report from the naming committee. Chair Josie Martinez is not here, and I understand that committee did not meet this period. Next, we have a report from the Ad Hoc Board Policy Committee, and Paul is not here, but is someone here to give the report?
There's one action item later in the agenda.
Thank you. And next, we have a report from the Ad Hoc Executive Search Committee. Judy?
Yes, we did. They did meet. I missed one of the meetings, but they met on July 25th. August 8th and August 22nd. The recruitment brochure was released on August 16th, and applications are being received through September 15th. And then there will probably be more discussion later on.
Thank you, Judy. I'm excited to hear that the application's open. That's great news. Next is a report from the Ad Hoc ILA Committee, and our committee did meet on August 20th, and I believe we will get an update on that later in the agenda item 19. So next, we will move to a report from the San Antonio Public Library Foundation. Amy Hone.
guess what I'm going to talk about. We do have a few other things, so I'll save Over the Edge for the end. Next Tuesday, we kick off this school year's literacy caravan sessions. We continue to visit schools across the community on Tuesday and Thursday mornings. If any of the trustees are ever interested in coming out with the caravan to see what we're doing, please just shoot me an email. We'd love to have you out there. We do have a caravan educator position open, which is a very part-time position. It's 10 hours a week, Tuesday and Thursday mornings. If you know a college student, it's the perfect job for a college student who has classes on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. The caravan is also starting a partnership with HEB's Read 3 program, and so that's the literacy program that HEB does system-wide, and each year they do a live read-in, and this year it is here in San Antonio. Last year it was in the Valley. The year before that it was in Austin. They bring in an author. And they contacted us to partner with us because they know our commitment to reaching kiddos all across the community in all 10 city council districts. So they were looking for a nonprofit partner that could help them bring in 1,000 third graders from across the community. So that will be on September 26th, which is a Thursday, down at Techport. Of course, that's 5 days after Over the Edge, so we did agree to it, even though it's becoming kind of crazy. So they have Ernest Cline, who's the author of Ready Player One. He has a new book about bats, and so it's set in Austin. And so we are helping them with purchasing the books and doing all that sort of thing, and reaching out to our caravan schools, past and present, to get them to the 1,000 third graders. So that'll be 1,000 live, and then they will also have it virtually for all the other schools in the community. So we're super excited about that. Every kid that is live is going to get a copy of Ernest Cline's new book, as well as all kinds of goodies and all that. So this is just in furtherance of our partnership with HEB, and we just look forward to growing that as we go forward. Save the date for next year's Katrina Ball, November 1st. More details to come. That's the only detail we have right now. Our nominating committee is also currently meeting, so if you have a nomination of someone you think would be really great for the foundation board, please shoot me an email, because we are still accepting nominations. And then as we go through that process, it'll be October when our slate gets presented to our executive committee, and then we vote on that at our annual meeting in November. So then my only other thing to talk about is Over the Edge. Even though we had a little hiccup when the Thompson Hotel and the Indigo Hotel decided to sue each other, but it's fine. They both love us, so we're totally good. The landing zone does cross over both properties, because the landing zone, we are rappelling off the side of the Thompson Hotel that faces Central Library, and that side of the hotel, the ropes are going to land in that alleyway that's between the Indigo and the Thompson, and it's about this wide. So, but we got it all straightened out. Everything is good. Our cocktail party, our VIP cocktail party the night before, will actually be at the Indigo. So we're building relationships with both places, even though they don't really like each other too much right now. So we do have, as I mentioned at the last meeting, we do have some folks from SAPL who are rappelling. Paul Stahl is signed up to rappel. Mr. McCary is $5 from his $1,500 fundraising to get his spots. So if you'd like to support Mr. McCary, you can go to our website, to events, and find the website and just search his name. But he is only $5 off, so he's raised $1,495. We also have Haley and Scott are both rappelling. So Haley's doing very well. She's at $920 and Scott's at $750. And then also Nathan, who I have not even met right now, is at $250. So
And I panicked because I saw my name on the team, but I don't have to rappel. I just fundraise.
That's right, yes, and you actually got $250 on your books. So as I was leaving the office, Jessica said to me, "Is Kathy going to freak out because she's got money on her page now?" And I said, "No, she knows. We already talked about it. You don't have to rappel. It's fine to just fundraise." We have a whole lot of our board members who are just on there to fundraise and who are not planning to rappel. So I do encourage you all. The event is from 8 in the morning until 5 p.m. on Saturday, September 21st. You can watch it from Central if you like, but the very best spot to watch it is going to be either on the ground, on the sidewalk, right next to that alley that's in between the two, or actually in the courtyard of the Indigo where they have their valet area. It's a perfect view for watching the rappelling. We will also be live streaming it. We'll be doing Facebook Live, so you can watch it on our Facebook too. But we would love to have you come down and join us for that event. Yes, ma'am.
Where do you suggest we park?
At the Central Garage. No. We have parking. The Baptist Church is giving us some parking for our volunteers and things. But if you are going to come down, it's just a couple of blocks, and so Central is actually a good place for you to park.
Nice weather by then, so you'll want to walk.
That's right. It's going to be wonderful weather. It's going to be cooler. We're not going to have any inclement weather. But if we do, the safety teams are totally on board with it. Just to reiterate, Over the Edge has done 1,500 events. They have 151,000 people they have sent, and these are unique individuals. We do have people who have rappelled with them multiple times. They have a spotless safety record. You are way safer doing Over the Edge if you want to sign up to rappel than you are driving on 281 or 1604. So I'm just going to tell you.
I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
How long does it take for somebody to rappel?
It depends. It depends. So the difference between a civilian or a military rappel and urban rappelling is if you're doing rappelling, like if you're at Enchanted Rock and you're rappelling, you're using your right hand as your brake. But because this is 208 feet and 20 stories, you have on, because the ropes are very big around, you have what's called a descender. So you're going to lift up on the descender to let yourself out. And if you let go of it, then it just stops. You just stop. So it really depends on how scared the person is or how much experience they have. When I was with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and we rappelled off the W Hotel in Austin, there were a couple guys that did it in under a minute. But the typical person walks down the side of the building, so we allow 15 minutes for each person, but it really doesn't take very long. And if you do freeze midway, there's a safety rope, and the people from Over the Edge can just lower you to the bottom. So
I had a question for you, Amy. The the TechPort
Yes.
event.
Yes.
Where is that? Where do they have space for 1,000 third graders?
Where they have concerts out there?
Oh, okay. They're using that venue. Okay, concert venue. Excellent. Thank you.
I have a question. It's all Title I third graders, or it's?
Yes. Yes. So one of the reasons that they approached us was because they knew, because it was sort of a short time frame to do this, they wanted to be able to reach children from underserved areas, and they know that we do that kind of research. So as we select our caravan schools, and so we're reaching out to schools we've seen over the course of the last 3 years. So any of our schools that we've seen post-COVID. So the criteria that we use for those schools is that they need to be Title I schools. They also, because there are so many Title I schools in San Antonio, we also look at their reading proficiency, and we start at the very bottom. And so we contact those schools and say, would you like us to come out? How many second grade? Because we see second graders. So the HEB knows that we did that homework, and so they could contact us and get to the right schools. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Great update. generating lots of excitement. Next, we have John Costello, report from the Friends of the San Antonio Public Library.
Good afternoon, trustees. So we've been a busy group. We are in the midst of our final round of interviews next week for manager for the bookseller, and we have a very qualified group of candidates, so fingers crossed it all goes well with them. Also, as I reported a couple months ago, that working with Kathy and the administration, we were updating our MOUs, and the good news, I signed off on them just this afternoon, and all they need now is Kathy's signature, and we can put those to rest after a long time of needing updating. So it's good to get them, and it was actually a very painless process. So thanks to Kathy and the staff for that. A reminder that the deadline for the Arts and Letters Award nominations is September 30th, with the event going to be November 10th at Mission Library. Following up on the advocacy that Jessica was mentioning earlier, the Friends have sent out an email to all of their members, updating them about the town halls, and we have listed all that information on the Friends website. So we're encouraging our friends to make sure they attend that. Our next board meeting is September 29th at Collins Garden. And our big news is we have decided that our donation to the library will be used to fund in its entirety Staff Day 2025. So it's a great project. We are thrilled that the Friends can do this to support all of the staff throughout the system. And we are hoping that it all goes well. This could become a tradition for the Friends to sponsor this event. So that is what we've been up to. Any questions?
Great update. I just want to make no question, but that's a great update, and thank you so much. Very
We
meaningful.
are thrilled about it, so it's great. Okay. Thank you all.
Questions for John? Okay, thank you, John. Next, we have a staff report regarding the library card campaign. Scott Williams is going to present.
Sir, I realized as Amy was talking that I've not told my wife about Edge, so that was a fun text message to send right before coming up. She might be. Sometimes she does. I know. I'll remind her of that. Well, this evening I'm very excited to share with you all some news about a new library card initiative and marketing campaign that we are launching to engage new customers and increase the library's overall visibility in our community. But before I reveal the juicy details, I want to give you a little bit of background. So first of all, it's important to note that September is National Library Card Sign-Up Month. We always host some form of National Library Card Sign-Up Month recognition, some form of campaign. This year, as you'll see from some numbers I'm about to show you, we wanted to go a little bit bigger and really try and draw a lot of attention to the library system. We have over 316,000 unexpired library card accounts. So this puts in context how many basically active library card users we have. And so in a city where we have a service population nearing 2 million people, we have room to grow. Part of the reason that our numbers are where they are is that library cards do expire after 5 years, and so if they never expired, we would have literally millions of library card accounts. But of course, people move, people pass away, things happen, and so over time, while we continue to see our numbers grow, you know, they're not in the tens of millions like they would be if library cards never expired. So we wanted a really good opportunity to expand our reach into multiple communities in San Antonio. And we were spurred on by an idea incubator submission from 2023. That year, Kara Bailey at the Tobin Branch Library submitted an idea to our idea incubator, which is a platform by which any library staff member can submit a written proposal for a new idea that they would like to see implemented at the library. Each year, a few ideas are selected, funded, and implemented. Kara's idea actually was not selected, but because we were so compelled by what she shared with us, we decided to move forward with it anyway. She shared with me during a few meetings that I had with her in 2023 how her previous library system, which was the Multnomah County Public Library System in Oregon, had diversified the designs of their library cards to appeal to different people. And she told us that it was a huge success. It really brought a lot of people into the fold. Of course, we're aware of similar campaigns and similar initiatives at other large library systems throughout the US. So it's something that we've thought about from time to time, but it was really Kara's submission to the idea incubator and the conversations that we had with her that spurred us to action in this case. So we decided to move forward with her idea and propose an initiative to introduce new library card designs to the public. And I know you're eager to see them, but I have to share a little bit more context with you. So our core purpose with this campaign is, of course, to increase the number of card holders we have, pure and simple. That is our goal. We also are aiming to increase awareness of the library. As you'll see later in the presentation, we're going a little bit more above and beyond than we typically do with a marketing campaign. So we're really trying to just get the name out there, get the brand out there more in front of people. The results of our recent strategic planning process showed again and again and again the need to increase our footprint and bring in new users to the library. In fact, several of the goals relate specifically to increasing the number of people who use the library, and one goal in particular is strictly about increasing awareness of the library system and its resources. So this initiative and campaign was developed concurrently with the strategic plan. It wasn't a result of the strategic plan. However, it is a huge step forward in beginning to meet those goals that we've outlined in the strategic plan. So it was with this ambitious goal in mind that we decided that we had to make a splash, and so we decided not only to introduce 1 or 2 new designs, but 7. So 7 new library card designs were developed and proposed to our library leadership in 2023 with the intention to move forward with 3. They were so well received that we were told, please do them all and, quote, keep going, unquote. So you will see more card designs in the future. The cards are designed by our own in-house graphic design team to reflect a variety of diverse experiences, cultural traditions, and perspectives in San Antonio, though I admit they are not intended to be wholly representative of everybody's experience in our community. I know everyone loves show and tell, so I have samples to share with you all. I'll pass these around. Reference. So our goal is to sign up 15,000 new card holders in the months of September and October 2024. That number is specific. It's a 20% increase over the same number of card holders we signed up over that period in 2023. And I will say that it's a minimum goal, and I hope to not only beat it, but blow it out of the water. We have a lot of these new cards, but they are being advertised and promoted as limited edition while supplies last. And we have a healthy backstock of our classic library cards, so we will not run out of cards if this initiative becomes popular. There are a few ways to sign up for a library card. The most common, of course, are to visit a library location and to go onto our website and sign up for a temporary 90-day card. Most people start at the website. They will go online, Google library, they'll arrive at our website. And what we discovered through planning the campaign for this was that those patrons may have a confusing experience learning how to register for a library card. So since we know that the online registration process only results in a temporary 90-day card that gives you access to our digital library, we wanted to make sure that patrons had a more robust resource in order to understand not only how to register for a library card, but what options are available to them and what steps they have to take in order to get their new card. So we did a few things, but the first was a brand new library card web page, an overview page that includes information about our digital card as a first step in getting your new library card, information about the new library card designs, and also information about our enhanced library card, so that there's one centralized resource on our website about getting a library card and getting your foot in the door of the library. We'll also we've already redesigned a welcome email to digital users to make sure that folks who were worried were getting lost in that gap between registering a 90-day online card and getting a physical card will be encouraged to actually go in and complete their registration, complete their residency verification, and get a physical card. Because we know that some folks were signing up for the 90-day card, getting a book on Libby or watching the movie they wanted on Canopy, and then not actually carrying through to complete their registration at a library location. So that welcome email is intended to kind of remind people that this is a temporary online card. We want you to come in and complete your registration. Then we're also going to be sending those same folks reminders at the 30, 60, and 83-day notice to encourage them to come in, complete their registration, and get their physical card. So who are we targeting with this campaign? Well, first and foremost, we're targeting non-card holders, people who do not currently have a library card or may have limited awareness of the library and what it offers. So we'll be doing that through print and digital billboards across the city, paid social media advertising that's targeted at specific communities within our city where we know that there are fewer folks who use the library, and a strategic and wide-reaching public relations campaign that kicks off next week. We're also going to be targeting folks who have had a card in the past, but that card has expired, and we know that they're no longer using the library as an incentive to bring them back in. And then finally, the City of San Antonio has a robust staff team. You all know that. I think we have over 15,000 employees at the city. And whether you live within Bexar County or not, as a city employee, you are eligible for a free library card. So we're going to be doing some messaging directly to city employees to let them know that that's a resource for them and that they have new card options to choose from. This is a map of the billboard locations that we're going to be utilizing in order to promote this campaign. There are 21 of them around San Antonio, and we're going to be printing them in English and Spanish. So you'll see the purple circles identify the billboards that will be in Spanish, and the green triangles just denote the digital billboards that we're using. We actually get those at no cost because of an ordinance that the city has with Clear Channel Outdoor to increase the number of digital billboards while reducing the number of print billboards. So while the red printed billboards come out of the library's budget, the green digital billboards do not. The Spanish locations were chosen based on higher incidences of Spanish as the primary language spoken in the home in those areas. And the total expected impressions from just the print billboards, not including the digital billboards, for a 4-week billboard run is a little over 3.7 million people. It costs us less than a penny per impression to run these billboards. So I want to show them to you real quick. These are the billboard mock-ups. I'm just going to go through them quickly. There's a variant for each one in English and in Spanish. We do have a cute nickname for each card. This card is called Book of Vacation. We call this one Boots and Bluebonnets, Folklorico Flowers, and this one is simply and elegantly called Musica. This is a mock-up of what one of the billboards will look like on Hackberry and South Cross. This is about a mile from the Mission Branch Library, and we worked with Clear Channel Outdoor to identify poster locations, billboard locations that were nearby library locations, so that folks would drive by. They may have a familiarity with their local library, but they may not have taken that step to go in the door, and we're hoping that this is going to be the impetus to push them into getting their library card. If we do meet that goal of 15,000 new card holders in September and October, our cost per new user for the amount of money that we're investing in this campaign is less than $1. Of course, we're really hoping to exceed that goal, and so if we do, that number will come down even more, but that's a pretty good deal for changing someone's life by bringing them into the library. And to give you a little bit of information about tracking success, we will be monitoring cardholders, new cardholders via a report every single week. We will look at which cards are more and less popular, we'll look at which marketing tactics are more and less popular, and we'll be able to adjust our campaign tactics as we go on through the campaign in September and October. We are only including certain categories of new cardholders as people who kind of count for this campaign. So those are brand new adult and juvenile homebound and online accounts. So folks who are renewing their card or existing patrons who come in to swap out their card We're glad that they're doing that, and we're very grateful. We'll be tracking re-engagement with existing patrons, but we're not counting them toward that 15,000 person goal. We want those people to be really new library users, folks who either have not used the library in a long time or have never used the library. So those are the people that we are going for. Finally, tonight, I do want to mention that we are already planning future phases of this campaign and this initiative, which will focus even more strongly on equity and increasing library users in areas of the most need. Very excited to launch this, and we'll give you more information about phases 2 and possibly 3 and more when the time is right. And then lastly, we wanted to make sure that you all had the first pick of these new designs. So tonight, if you would like to upgrade your existing library card and receive one of these new cards, my colleague and supervisor, Haley Holmes, will be issuing new library cards after the meeting. I do want to mention that that means you would have to change your library card number. So if you are beholden to your library card number, as some of us are, we also, of course, can just offer you a token card to take with you as a memento. So if you don't want to transfer your account, you can also just pick one out to have with you. Just a quick shout out to my team. The graphic design team that I work with is spectacular. My entire marketing communications team contributed to not only the concepting and design and execution of these cards, but of the campaign that we're about to roll out to the public next week, and I'm immensely proud of them. I also want to share some of the responsibility for this campaign with Sarah Lindley, our Access Services Manager, who has been really instrumental as our library card contract administrator, and also the kind of connection point between the marketing communications team and the broader staff team, so that the staff team is really ready to roll this out on Tuesday. Sarah's done an excellent job of making sure that everybody is well prepared and knows what's coming and is excited about it. So with that, I'll stop talking and pause for any questions that you all may have.
Well, very exciting information. Extremely torn between which card I should pick. I think that's awesome.
Created giant versions of the cards.
So that's wonderful. I do have a couple questions. Let me first look to my right and my left and see if any trustees have questions. Yeah.
So like at that back to school event I was at the table talking to the representatives from the library, and as I walked away, I guess there were some people, it was pretty crowded, they had asked me, can I sign up for a library card here? And they didn't have necessarily like a sign up. So I guess what kind of strategies or what could they have had in order to get them to sign up? Because a lot of them were actually just moved. My job was to register them, so that's why I knew all this information. They just moved to the area or were just new to San Antonio. So what kinds of things would you suggest?
So the number one thing that we need on site at a location that is not a library to issue library cards is an internet connection. So if it's a circulation team member who's conducting that outreach and they have internet access, they have the ability to issue cards on site. If they don't, then we have a handout that encourages people to go online and start the registration process on our website. That we make available to folks if they're conducting outreach and they don't have the ability to issue cards right there and then. Of course, we prefer if they are issuing cards during the outreach, because then we're less likely to lose those folks downstream, right? So we're mindful of that, but we don't always have the ability to issue library cards in the field because of that requirement to be connected to the internet and connected to the integrated library system. So that may have been the case. I don't know for sure, but that may have been the case at that outreach.
I had a couple questions. Would you mind going back in your slide deck? Is this the first one? This is your last slide. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, perfect. So, yeah, love this. If you can go forward one slide, or, yeah, open the curtain on this one. Okay, awesome. I absolutely love this. Side note, I would have loved to see a picture of your team, because this is amazing. And we see their amazing work, but we very rarely get to actually see their faces, so.
Like it that way.
Yeah, I figured. So I was curious, I think this is fabulous, love the artwork. I'm curious about a couple things. So one is, you mentioned that they're limited edition. I recognize that you have you're planning wild success and you have quite a few of the cards. But looking at this here as well, and this question also applies to the billboard ads, it doesn't indicate that it's limited edition, and one of the thoughts that came to mind was for those like non-card holders that are not they're like non-takers of the service today, they may not know that this is something unique and special. So how do we convey that this is limited edition and you need to act fast, hopefully during the month of September to sign up for a new card?
So we intentionally chose to leave that language off of the billboards because you only get about 7 words on a billboard before people don't have the opportunity to read anymore. And so we had to be very, very careful with those 7 to 10 words to make sure that we had both the concept, which is that there are new library cards, action, which was to visit the website for more information. So we had to get all that on there. Every other piece of collateral information, social media posts, the website, the press release, all of the other information going out about this campaign has right at the top, leads with the fact that this is a limited edition while supplies last initiative. So we're making that extremely clear on just about everything except for the billboard.
Okay. And also, maybe this is something you could educate us on, is the concept of free automatically assumed for members of the general public that don't interact maybe with libraries much? My perspective is obviously super biased, right? Because I know that everything is free and it's available to everyone. But is that what do we know about the demographics in San Antonio? And is there an understanding that it's completely free and there's nothing that you have to put a credit card down for or anything like that?
Well, we try to include in the majority of our messaging the fact that library resources are free, because we know that, for example, folks who may come from a Mexican heritage have a different idea of what a library is, and it's not always that the resources there are free. Sometimes it's more equated to a bookstore environment where you have to purchase the books or pay for a membership. So highlighting the fact that not only the card and membership are free, but that the vast majority of our resources, with the really sole exception being printing and copying, are free is a standard part of our messaging points. So we try to always include that.
And was that included in any of the billboards and the digital? Okay. That's just something that came to mind. And similar to the cultural influence that you mentioned for the Mexican aspect, there's also a South Asian concept of a library, but you put something down, you give something in exchange for the book. So it's also not really free and clear the way that it is here. So I think that's definitely something that we could improve upon. Overall, though, super exciting, very love to see that. And then as we go forward, past September, something that I would love to explore is is there a sustainable way to let people swap out their card, maybe printing their numbers on demand? Somebody wants to get a card mailed to their house. I don't know anything about this, but there is so much on-demand printing now available through some of the innovative printing methodologies that if we could let people do that and renew your card and pick out a card and get it mailed to your house, I think that would be amazing. Thank you.
I have one last question. You said that the billboards were just going to be around the libraries. Is that correct?
They are. We designed the map of the billboards to be as close to library locations as we could get in the areas that we wanted to target with the messaging. They aren't all right next to a library, but they're all within about half a mile to a mile of a library location. Mm-hmm.
5. That's very far from the closest.
That one is pretty far out. We wanted to reach folks in far South Bexar County who may not have an awareness of our resources, so we decided to put one a bit of an outlier where we didn't really have much of a presence to see if that would drive traffic. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a good idea. There was that news coverage that I think you helped coordinate, Scott, where they covered like the availability of the free little libraries as a replacement for an actual library. So I think that's a really good tactic to let people know that with a bit of a drive, you can get to Cortez.
That billboard was actually a direct result of that news report. We knew that there was that need, so we wanted folks to know that they had access to library services even if they lived in far South Bexar County.
The other one that we have is Petranco on 151, and there's no billboard. And Petranco, I mean, obviously 151 is a very trafficked area. Yeah.
Billboard number 7 is the closest to the library.
Can we get an idea of what the budget is for this?
Yes, I can. So the budget for the printed billboards is just a hair shy of $13,000 for a 4-week run for these 16 printed billboards. And then we're spending about $500 on paid social media advertising between September and October. So all in, it's about $13,500.
Thanks, Scott. Excellent work. Okay, next we will review and consider approval of San Antonio Public Library's rental space policy. And this is an action item, and is this Haley that's going to be presenting? Okay, thank you.
My voice is a little weird, so of course today's the day I caught the thing. And my presentation will not be as exciting as Scott's, but I do have to say that our branch managers are really excited about the policy update. So there is somebody who is excited. So a little background, what we're looking at here, and you do have a copy of this in your packet along with the current version of the branch library meeting room policy. We are seeking to update the policy, but at the same time, we are combining 2 documents. So previously or currently, we have a branch library meeting room policy that was last updated in 2015. And we have a library administrative directive that's called Rental of Central Library Meeting Rooms, Terraces, and Other Spaces, which was approved in 1998. So we're taking those 2 and combining them into one policy. The policy itself is largely unchanged in the changes that we're presenting to you today. It looks very different, though.
Sorry, 1 second, Haley. I just want to make sure that trustees are aware the new policy is a cream, and the existing 2 documents that she referenced, or that are being combined together, are in white and hopefully right next to or under that cream policy so that you can reference it. So the one says subject branch library meeting rooms, it's a single sheet, and the second one says subject rental of central library meeting rooms, and it's a stapled sheet. Thank you.
So the policy that we're presenting to you today is largely unchanged, although it does look very different from the current meeting room policy. And that's because we're incorporating practices that we've been used and are outlined in other documents, such as our contract and other related policies. So our staff have been using this guidance, but it hasn't been in the policy itself. So what we're trying to do is to take all of that relevant information and put it into the policy this time. So we've gathered feedback from our managers repeatedly, honestly, over a few years at this point. So we've worked very hard on this updated policy. And this is a policy that can be difficult for our managers to use. It is a bit complex, the process, because you do have a contract. Many times there's a payment that's associated with it. So we want to really help our managers in being able to apply this consistently throughout our whole library system. So when a patron goes to different locations, they're always getting the same information and the same service when it comes to using one of our meeting rooms. And so we have brought this to our managers. We've actually been to the ad hoc policy committee twice, and we have reviewed it. We've heard so much feedback, and we've incorporated that feedback. And at one point, I think we brought a 10-page document, and we've been able to bring that down to about a 5-page document at this point. So we're proud of that. And I do want to just recognize Kiana Stevens, the former manager of the Landa Library, who was recently promoted to Special Projects Manager, because she really led this effort over the last few years. And this has also been vetted by the City Attorney's Office. So just a little bit about the purpose of this policy. So meeting rooms are one of our many assets that we make available for community use. And we need to balance the needs of the community with library programming. And some of our locations really see a lot of use of their meeting rooms. So we want to make sure we're making it available for those intentions. And we also want to make sure that we're balancing the differences in usage of different locations. So as the manager of Parman, I remember one month when I rented the room 30 times. So it can be a lot of work in a location where people really need or want to use the room. And then we have others that Parman has 2 rooms. Other libraries only have 1 room. So they have to balance the needs of the community wanting to use the room along with the library programming to make sure that we're able to meet all of those needs. We also want to create consistency among locations so that expectations are the same no matter where you visit. And then we wanted to, in this policy, really clarify who can use the room for free versus those that are expected to pay a fee. And that's been something that's been difficult to navigate over the years. So I think we're making it a lot more clear in this policy. And just as a reminder, if someone does rent the room and they must pay a fee, it's $20 an hour, which is outlined in our library's fees and rental rates, which is adopted as part of the annual city budget process. And then we also, of course, want to ensure that this is in alignment with our mission and purpose. Again, library programs and events, community meetings, and other related uses that benefit the diverse interests and needs of our community. So I'm just going to highlight some of the noteworthy improvements for you. Again, largely the policy hasn't changed. There's just more content that we're taking from other documents that we've been using throughout the years. Again, we're combining 2 documents primarily. One is a policy and one is an LAD technically. So this new policy is going to cover all of our spaces that are available to rent, whether they're at branches, at Central Library, or special spaces like the Landa grounds. So this covers all of those. This is a newish format the policy has in the last few years, which is great because it includes definitions, and we didn't have that before in our policies. And this one in particular, it's really important that we define different organizations and to be consistent. For instance, community organizations. What is that exactly? And how does one become a registered COSA community organization? Also, what is a neighborhood association? What is a library partner group, et cetera? So that's definitely a lot more clear in this new policy. We wanted to update and provide thoroughness and clarity, and then to make sure that this policy is in alignment with other policies that we use, like the Patron Code of Conduct and the Unintended Children Policy, which are both referenced in here. Something that is new is that we did include an age requirement that to rent a space, you do have to be 18 or older, which the City Attorney's Office agreed with us. We do serve people of all ages, and we really cannot enter into a contract with a minor, so we wanted to make that clear. And then the other change is that we do require for someone to use a meeting room that they have a library card. And this is an example of something that we've been doing for a long time but wasn't in the policy. And that became effective when we implemented the new integrated library system, Symphony, in 2020, that as part of our fiscal requirements, someone does have to have a library card to rent the room. And then a lot of clarification regarding free use of spaces and a little bit of updating there. So we have a lot of questions, for instance, about whether schools can use our spaces for free. And so we made it very clear in this policy That they can, but they do have to be accredited by the Texas Education Agency. So that's something that we can reference online when a school comes in to see if they meet that requirement. And then also neighborhood associations and community organizations, making that super clear that as long as they're registered with the city, then they can use the space for free, unless it's for political activity. So that's all very clear in the policy. And then, once again, just calibrating the policy and the contract so that they're the same. Because right now, there are things that are in the contract that aren't in the policy, and we want to make sure that those two things are in alignment, so that when someone signs that they agree to all of our terms and that they're going to leave the room as they found it and all of those things, that those statements are in both documents. So once you all adopt this policy, whether it's today or in the future, we will do some additional updates at that time. So we have been working on all of the other documents to prepare them, but they're not finalized because we wanted to make sure that the policy was done first. So we will update the contract to reflect the policy, and we've been working on many process documents to help our managers and our librarians to be able to rent and to reserve rooms in accordance with the policy. So there are procedures, processes, process maps, FAQs. There are many things that we've developed and that we've been working on, and all of those will go onto a LibGuide for our staff for easy access. So I think that's enough from me, and I would like to see if there's any clarification or questions that you have.
And before we open to questions, can you confirm, Paul is not here, did the ad hoc policies committee review this policy?
Yes, they did.
Okay, and then Andrea, I think you're on that committee, right? Was there a recommendation from the committee for us? To go forward to the board. Okay, thank you. Fernanda, you had a question?
I have a question regarding item number 12, where it says the individual or entity offering the program may not actively hand out business cards or brochures promoting any businesses, products, or service, and may not solicit personal information, names, addresses, phone number from the program participants either as part of the pre-registration process or during the program itself. I have a question.
Which page was that on?
Oh, on the white
The
one.
old policy, okay. Yes.
Yeah, this is in yellow.
My bad.
I had a question while she's looking through that. So Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, they all have to pay? Because somebody came to me with a Girl Scout leader and said she.
So I happened to have this question yesterday, so I can answer it, and it's a bit nuanced. So this is going to be a great example of how complex this is. So I forget what the name of the overarching Girl Scout group is, the Girl Scouts of South Texas or something like that. They are registered with the city as a community organization. So if they want to use a meeting room to have an informational session for the public, they can use it for free.
So they have to be registered with the city?
Yes. But if an individual troop wants to have a closed meeting where only their members are attending, according to this policy, they would have to pay the $20 an hour. So if an organization is going to use a room for free, it needs to be open to the public. So if the troop wanted to use the room and have a crafting day and invite anybody who wants to come in and be part of that, then they could use the room for free because they're registered with COSA. The Boy Scouts are not registered with COSA at this time. But there is an online listing that anybody can go to see who is registered and who isn't. No.
Fine here. It says, meeting facilitators may not solicit personal information from program participants, either as part of a pre-registration process or during the program itself, unless approved by the library manager or designee. which
What
is
section is that, Fernanda?
Number 3, page 5, on the beige. Page. Under D, restrictions. So my question is, if there is a school that comes in that is approved by the TA, that is a school, wants to have their PTA meeting here with their parents for them to sign up for PTA, because that is part of the school, then that means they can't have the meeting here because their parents cannot sign up for PTA. Is that correct?
So it says unless approved by the library manager. So what I would expect that the manager would consult with their public services administrator to get permission for that. I don't see why we wouldn't allow that instance that you're speaking of. I will say that there are things in here that really speak to businesses. So we do have a lot of folks who will come in the library and want to hold a Medicare session. And so we're trying to protect our patrons from coming into something that they think is library sponsored, but it's really a business trying to solicit business. But we do have in there, unless approved by the manager, because we know there are other instances where it could be allowed.
So similar question on number 4 in the restrictions that fees of any type cannot be collected by the client while on library property. What about donations for like a fundraising cause? And is that considered a fee? And would that be allowed? It doesn't have the unless approved by a library manager clause there. Was that purposeful or?
Discourage any kind of money exchange in the public space because people don't know. We can't guarantee what that money is being used for or why it's being collected. So we don't allow people to collect donations. But it does say on library property because there are some instances where an organization may collect that outside of the library, if that makes sense. But things that happen in the library, we're very, very cognizant of free and open to the public. So we don't want there to be any impression that we're charging people to come to something at the library.
There, I did not see in here like the catering section and the scheduling section from the main, or the scheduling sections there. The catering, is that?
So that will go into our procedures. And probably something in the contract that refers to catering.
So there's like going to be these 2 documents are being replaced by this, but there's going to be additional documents that
there is
provide.
A contract, and the contract does have a little bit more
like guidelines for the,
I would say, information in it.
Contract be presented for us to review.
I don't think because Kathy can help me with this, but it's not the part of the policy.
a part of the policy, yeah, it wouldn't come to us.
Yeah, I mean, for transparency, we can certainly share with you an example if you'd like to see it, but there are some specific things in the agreement, like, for example, for an event, that are in the contract itself. Yeah, so sometimes our team has to work with the event planner to determine, do we need, are they going to serve alcohol? So do we need a TABC bartender? Do we need security? Those types of things. Yep. But we could certainly share like a boilerplate one if that's helpful.
I think the fact that it's in the old policy that we're evaluating makes it relevant, although I agree with you generally. We wouldn't delve outside of the policy space into the procedural parts. That's very clearly delineated for you to, as a library director, to provide oversight on. But I want to acknowledge that there's parts of the policy that are being like replaced or not replaced, and perhaps seeing that would allow trustees to become more comfortable with the approval of the rental space.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Am I remembering correctly that, because there used to be, I think, a difference between what was charged nonprofits and what was charged for-profits, for lack of a better word. Am I remembering correctly that that was eliminated and the charge is the same now?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
The libraries have printed copies of these, like on-site, or is everything digital? Because I know we talked about the hyperlinks, because I went hyperlink crazy and started clicking everything. But I know there are people who need tangible.
I don't think most locations have it just printed on hand, but we certainly print it and can provide it to somebody at any time that we need to.
Other questions?
Is there a limit to the number of people that can rent a room? I mean, do you have limits to the different?
Number of people who can be in the room? We have occupancy numbers for every meeting room, so there's definitely, that's part of the conversation that we have with an individual when they're interested. If they're indicating it's going to be a large event, the manager would tell them there's the number that's allowed, the number of chairs that we have, and all of that.
There is no reference actually to, in the general spaces, the general information about like having to follow the occupancy guidelines according to the setup of the room. I think that, it seems like that's missing.
That's another element that I believe is in the contract, but if we want to explicitly state that you can, we probably can't state it as occupancy limit. That's a fire code thing, and it's for the whole building. It's not necessarily space by space. In some cases it is, depending on when the building was built, but certainly something to that effect we could add. Yeah.
Maybe Christine can propose something that, like to allow it to be clear that the policy is you have to follow certain occupancy guidelines.
Is it just for the meeting rooms, or it doesn't, like, for example, Central, it's not for the outdoor spaces, it's just meeting rooms, correct?
Written just for the meeting rooms that are available for reservation. At Central, the auditorium is the only space that we rent. The current policy or fee schedule does include the terraces and the plaza space at Central, but as part of the fiscal year 25 proposed budget, spaces are being taken out. They're being eliminated from that schedule. So if that goes through, only the auditorium will be listed.
Why is that?
Lack of interest. We don't really have people asking to use them, but also the staffing that's required to manage those spaces.
And of course, the big events that are co-sponsored by the library are not subject to that. So, Book Festival, we make arrangements for them with what spaces they use. When Katrina Ball's been here, they'll bring those.
It's a lack of information of people not knowing that they can rent the terraces. My second question is, how much staff does it take for those terraces compared to how much staff is needed for the auditorium?
Well, there are a lot of considerations with the terraces. For instance, we require that there be security presence. We only rent the spaces here when the library is open. And there's a lot of coordination that takes place with any room or space that we have to rent.
So it's the same coordination as the auditorium?
Since we haven't done it in so long, I'm not sure. I would think that there may be more involved.
Just based on the amount of time that we spent on this, I'm going to propose that we bring this, make a couple adjustments to the policy, share a copy of the contract in the pre-read for next month's board meeting, and then we can bring this item back for action at that time. Any concerns with that proposal? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Haley.
I just do want to share, I know in past when we've talked about the terrace, the liability factor of somebody, and I'm going to use the foundations, going over the edge without a rappel. I know that has been a concern before when we brought up the terrace and using it for certain things when it's not an organization that's going to provide the attention to that area. So that's one thing that's always been in the because we love the terrace, but you know, humans are humans, so.
Thank you for that, Andrea, and thank you so much, Haley, for the work on this. Next, we'll receive an update on the fiscal year 2025 budget development process. I think, Kathy, are you going to come to the podium for that one? Okay.
Happens when you hold it upside down. I blame Edward. He handed it to me upside down, I'm pretty sure. Okay. So I'll make this super quick because I know it's been a long meeting. This is very similar to what we shared previously, but just to highlight some of the items in the proposed budget document that, of course, now all the community input is happening around. So overall, for the library's budget for fiscal '25, for general fund, the proposal is $54.6 million. That's a little over a 2% increase from the current fiscal year. The majority of that is for compensation, so it's really two pieces. There's a 3% across the board compensation increase in the city's overall proposed budget for civilians. And then there is the Fair Labor Standards Act change that you may have read a little bit about in the news media, where there's the possibility that in January, the federal government will change the salary threshold for someone to be considered non-exempt or hourly, meaning that we would have more library employees whose job titles fall within a category that would be considered non-exempt or hourly. So what that means is we may have to engage with overtime, with paying out overtime. So that's included in our budget proactively. And we did get clarification on that amount, so that is definitely in the budget for this change that might be happening in January. Then in addition, there's a couple of improvements to the budget, meaning additions. So first, we have a slight increase in the books and materials budget. This is really to keep us at a maintenance position on what we're spending per capita, which is $4.06. That's per capita for our service area, so that includes the county folks. This increases our budget overall to $7.2 million for books and materials. And then also the addition of one position, which we're very excited about, to our personnel complement and the associated salary and equipment to add a training officer proactively for the new additional 8th Learn Center at Las Palmas when that project reopens. The position would, we always hire positions in advance. So until the branch opens, which we do anticipate happening in 2025, this person could help at other locations, help get things ready for the Learn Center. We also have in our capital outlay budget, which is part of the general fund budget, and almost $600,000 for furniture and equipment throughout the library system. This is primarily for replacement items, so worn chairs, different pieces of furniture that need replacing, book trucks. I mean, it's all different kinds of items. And then there is a couple of areas where we're adding some furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And then finally, about, $358,000 to replace devices. So it's both PCs, so that could be desktops, laptops, plus mobile devices like tablets or city-owned cell phones when they reach their end of life, with generally speaking is 4 years. So that's 197 computers and mobile devices. Then this is the capital budget as well as the deferred maintenance projects. So I believe we've sent out emails. I know you're very familiar with this, so I won't spend too much time on it unless you have any questions about it. But these are the specific projects that were in the proposed budget for both deferred maintenance, which totals almost $500,000, and then also the capital projects, which you can see below. And that's it for the proposed budget. I don't think we have, this is an action item. It's just
Not an action item? Okay. Any questions then? No, we've done our job and been talking about the budget all along, so this is just like par for the course. Thank you, Kathy. And thanks to your team, Jessica and others have made the development and distribution of information very seamless this year, so that was very well done. Next, we have appointment of a 3-person nominating committee to identify a slate of officers for the chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. Our election will occur in our next meeting, September 2024, which is our annual meeting. And this is actually action that we should have taken last month, so I apologize for the miss on this milestone, but I did reach out to many of you to discuss your willingness to be on the nominating committee, and I'm pleased to confirm that Andrea Sanchez Muniz will be the chair. Fernanda Cardenas and Marcy Ince will serve on the nominating committee. So this is an action item, so I'll ask for a motion and a second before we vote. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, Marcy. We have a first from Marcy. And I heard a second from Carla. Was that you? Okay. So a first from Marcy and a second from Carla. And can we do a roll call vote on this one, Nicholas? Thank you.
Carla Gurgiolo. Joanne Harris. Josie Martinez is absent. Andrea Sanchez Muniz.
Aye.
Marianne Valdez Hernandez is absent. Fernanda Cardenas.
Yes.
Paul Stahl is absent. Marcy Ince. Beth Graham.
Aye.
Judy Cruz. Jasprit Kaur.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And thank you for willing to volunteer on this committee. And then finally, last item is to receive an update regarding the interlocal agreement with Bexar County for library services, and we can take appropriate action. Do you have an update to give on this?
I'm sorry, I don't have any further update, just the update in the director's report about the fee being included in the proposed budget for Bexar County.
And, okay, so let me just check my agenda, make sure I haven't skipped anything. I think we're done. All right, great news, everyone. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Thank you, Marcy. First from Marky, second from Andrea. I don't think we need to vote on that. Thank you all, and have a nice evening. It's the least I could do.